this lesson in AutoCAD, we're going to learn how to control our drawing environment. Like, for example, zooming in or out and panning or moving the paper or moving the graphics area in the case of AutoCAD, which is equivalent to moving the paper when I'm drawing using a physical paper and a pencil. Other things that we're going to control in our environment is the picking. How do we pick and choose objects like this, for example, and like this? Using the picking windows or the crossing window or the contained window. We're going to speak about them today. Another thing that we're going to learn today is how do we control our object snap tools. For example, like if I'm starting a line, I can notice that AutoCAD gives me this snap tool, which is the small yellow box that snaps or sticks to the end point of the line or the end point of this line. Another thing would be like, for example, the center of the circle. I can see here that the cursor is now sticking to the center of the circle. So we're going to learn how to control these things. Let me start first of all by teaching you how to control the graphics area, the size of the graphics area and the position of the things that I've drawn or the objects that I have drawn on my graphics area. The first command that we're going to show you today is the zoom command, the zooming in and the zooming out. How do we do this? There's that wheel on your mouse, in the middle of your mouse. There's that wheel. Okay, so if I scroll the wheel or if I roll that wheel towards myself, I would be zooming out. And if I roll that wheel away from myself, I would be zooming in to make the drawing or the thing that I've drawn bigger in size. They seem to be bigger, however, they're staying the same size. They do not change their actual size. So if the radius here was 15, it's still 15. However, I'm seeing it bigger and I'm seeing it smaller by simply, this is equivalent to moving a paper in front of your eyes, away from your eyes or closer to your eyes. It doesn't mean that the objects on that paper have changed in their actual size. Now the second command that we're going to learn today is the pan. The pan is when simply I move, kind of, I move the drawing. I'm not moving the drawing. What's happening here is the equivalent of moving the paper, a paper on which I have drawn these circles and lines. If I move that paper in front of my eyes, that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm not moving the objects. Later on, we're going to learn the move command in which we're going to move objects relative to one another, and that would be a real moving of the objects. However, here I'm just moving the complete paper or the complete graphics area in AutoCAD. So guys, simply by zooming in or out and panning to the left and to the right and up and down, I can control where I want to place the things that I've drawn in front of me. So let's say I want to place them here and I want to continue drawing other stuff that belong here on the drawing. Okay, that's how I can do that. And then I can zoom back and, okay, see everything. By the way, there's a shortcut here or trick, which is if I double click on the wheel itself, if I double click, AutoCAD executes what we call the zoom extents command, in which AutoCAD brings everything that I've drawn and places them in front of me like this, completely filling the screen. Then again, continue my zoom and pan controls. Now, other things that help me to control my working environment in AutoCAD are the object snap tools. There's a command in AutoCAD which is named object snap or OSnap, as you can read here. It has a shortcut of OS. So if I press or type OS, then spacebar, I can see here the drafting settings, in which I can see the endpoint and it's checked, the midpoint, which is not checked, the center, and other stuff like geometric center, node, intersection, extension, and other things. Here there's the button that says select all or clear all. What are these? These are the suggestions that AutoCAD are going to stick to as you are drawing. For example, if I'm drawing a line, AutoCAD by default is going to suggest for you the endpoint, and we saw this earlier. And AutoCAD also suggested sometimes the center point of circles, but AutoCAD never suggested a midpoint, and the reason is that the midpoint was not checked in this list. So by checking the things that I need here, I can make AutoCAD stick to these points as I'm executing drawing commands like lines, circles, and other drawing commands that we're going to see later. So here, let's say I'm going to click on endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, and basically that's it. This is the beginner's starting list. Other people might decide to put intersection or intersection or perpendicular. However, I do not recommend this as a beginner in AutoCAD. Depending on your drawing also, you might pick one of these options or not, depending on what you are drawing. But as beginners, let's start with endpoint, midpoint, center, and quadrant. Okay. Now, these are going to be the default suggested object snap tools. Whenever you are executing a drawing command and you're moving your cursor, AutoCAD is going to suggest these for you as you move your cursor. Let's check it out. So here I'm going to say OK. Now, if I move my mouse here, nothing will be suggested. Why? I'm still not drawing anything. I'm not inside of a drawing command. However, if I start a drawing command like, let's say, line, L, spacebar, AutoCAD is asking me for the first point, and now if I move my cursor here, I can notice that AutoCAD has started to suggest for me center points and quadrant points. What are quadrants? They are the one quarter of a circle, the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions. These are quadrants. Circle, endpoint of a line, another endpoint of a line, and something that's new, which is the midpoint. Now, the midpoint of every line can be suggested as a sticking point or snapping point for our line to start on, this line that I'm drawing right now. So let's say if I want to draw a line from the midpoint here to the midpoint here, then going to the center of this circle. So these are two lines that we've drawn. Now, some people might think, if I go to the object snap command again, which is the drafting setting here, some people might think, let's just simply select everything here and say OK. That would be a very bad idea, especially in a crowded drawing environment, which is a typical case in most engineering applications. So this is not recommended at all, and the reason is that AutoCAD will suggest to you lots of things, and you're going to get lost with which one to pick. And clearing all, of course, is not a good idea. We always need to stick to other references that we have already drawn. As we said before, let's go with this list. Later on, depending on what you are drawing, you might add things like tangent, perpendicular, intersection, or depending on what you're drawing, extension sometimes. But in any case, we're going to go with this list. Now, what if I want one of these object snap tools? So if I go S again, what if I need a tangency point? Or what if I need a perpendicular point? Okay, which is this one, or an intersection point, this one. Let me show you how to do it. So let's say I want to draw a line that starts here, yeah, and it goes perpendicular to this line. Let me show you how to do that. L for line, L spacebar, and AutoCAD says where's the first point. I'm going to go, let's say, from here. Now, where AutoCAD says where's the next point, it's not the end point here, it's not the midpoint here, it's not the quadrant point here. I want it to be perpendicular here. Now, I haven't checked the perpendicular object snap tool by default, but I can ask for it. I can ask for it only for once, and I don't want it to show by default. So the perpendicular is not showing by default, but I can ask for it only once. How to ask for an object snap tool only once? I do it by clicking on Shift on the keyboard and holding it. So now I am holding my Shift on the keyboard. Then at the same time I right click on the mouse. So Shift and at the same time right click. The Object Snap tool shortcut menu appears, and from here I can pick whatever I want. If I want an endpoint, a midpoint, an intersection point, and so on. So in this case I want a perpendicular point, okay, and that would be where here, okay. So here it is. I click on it. So now AutoCAD is no longer going to suggest for me the quadrant, is no longer going to suggest for me an endpoint, but only the perpendicular point. For example, AutoCAD will suggest to me the perpendicular, say, to anything that could be here. In this case, I don't have an apparent intersection, or yeah, maybe here. No. Okay, in any case, let's continue. So as I was saying, I wanted it to be perpendicular here. So now this point is perfectly perpendicular with this line is perfectly perpendicular with the other line. Now, let's say that I want to draw a line, or no, let's say I want to draw a circle starting at the intersection of these two lines. How could I do that? C, space bar, specify the center point of the circle. Let's say I want it to be the intersection here. I could have gone with the endpoint. It does work. However, let me just modify it a bit. Later on, we're going to teach you how to move objects. But let's say I had this scenario, and as I said, I wanted to draw a circle starting from the intersection of these two. So C space bar for circle. I approach my mouse. AutoCAD is not suggesting for me, it's not giving me the intersection. How do I ask for it? I press on Shift and right click at the same time, and I go to intersection, which is here. And I get my mouse cursor here and I click, and that's a circle which starts at the intersection of these 2 points. Now I simply specify the radius, or if I don't write a number and I simply, let's say, take it all the way to the end point here, I can do that, and that would be a circle of radius 28.2416. So this is the intersection and the perpendicular. Now let me show you the tangent thing, which is if I want to draw a line, let's say that starts, let's say here, and it goes to the tangent, of this circle. It doesn't go to the quadrant, and it doesn't go anywhere else. It's simply tangent to the circle. So how do I do that? I ask for the tangent. See, Shift right click. I ask for the tangent Object Snap tool, which is here. Tangent. And when I approach my mouse here and I click, AutoCAD has drawn a line that's tangent to the circle, which is this one. And you know that if you draw a line from the intersection, Shift right click intersection, to the endpoint of this line and this line are perpendicular. Okay, so this is a line from anywhere tangent to a curve. Let's say I want to draw a line that's tangent to 2 circles, this and this. How do I do that? Let me just erase this line. L space bar, specify the first point. I want the first point to be a tangent to this or this. So that's what we call a deferred tangent in AutoCAD. If I press Shift and right click and I choose tangent and I click here, what do I notice? I notice that AutoCAD has attached a line that is tangent to the curve or to the circle. However, guys, this line doesn't have a second point and it's still floating. This is called a deferred tangent. AutoCAD did not make a decision yet where the first point should be because we haven't specified where the next point is. So for example, if I click here now, that would be the line that will be drawn, because AutoCAD will draw a line from the point at which the cursor is at, and it's going to be tangent to the circle. However, let's say I want to continue this example, tangent from here and tangent to the other circle. Also, again, Shift right click and choose tangent and click on the circle. Then escape. This line is tangent to both circles at the same time. Okay, now let's continue. I'm done with the Object Snap tools. You can explore the others by yourself. Okay. nearest geometric center, and so on. If I have a rectangle, for example, the geometric center would be in the middle. Please explore the rest by yourself. For now, I'm going to continue on other topics, which is how do I select things using what we call the crossing window and the contained window. So let's say, guys, I want to execute a certain command in AutoCAD, or I want to simply pick objects. Let's say the command that I want to execute is erase. How do I erase objects in AutoCAD? There's a command called erase. It has a shortcut of E. So if I press E space bar, here AutoCAD is saying select objects. Now let's say I select this circle. Okay, so going back to the scenario which I told you, remember it, that is going to appear a lot, which is I selected an object. Let's say I'm going to select another object, which is this line. Here it says 2 in total. I'm done selecting. AutoCAD is still giving me the chance to select, but I'm done. That's where I'm going to click on the right click on the mouse. Although the space bar works, I do not recommend it. Why? Because when we select objects, we do that by using the left click of the mouse, and when we're done selection, we press on the right click to exit the selection. So that way you can click them so quick, and it's so efficient. So left click here, then right click. So here, guys, as you can see, 2 objects were erased. Now, let's say I want to erase this circle. E space bar, select objects. I can get the mouse cursor here and click on it. However, let's say I want to erase this line also. See? You might also have even smaller objects. Whenever I have this scenario, I have lots of objects that are drawn, and I want to make a kind of a surgical pick of an object. That's when I use what we call the containing window in AutoCAD. How do I get the containing picking window? If I click anywhere and then I remove my click. Okay, so I clicked and now I removed my finger. I took off my hand off the mouse completely. And then I moved. I get a rectangular shape, okay, or square shape depending on how much I moved. That's colored blue. This is called a containing picking window. Anything that's inside of this window completely will be picked. For example, now it's not picking anything. There's nothing that's going to be picked to be erased. However, if I put the complete circle here inside of it, this circle is going to get selected. If I continue like this, nothing new will be selected. As you can see, all of this window will select only just the circle which is here. Okay, because the object has to be completely inside of the blue window, which is called the contained picking box. If I move it a bit downwards, you can see now I have 2 new circles inside it, which is this circle and this circle. Okay, and so on. So the object has to be completely inside it. This picking window is very good at making surgical picks. Okay, surgical, which are precise picks amid many objects. So let's say I want to erase this small circle here. It would be quicker and more efficient for me to do the following: E space bar, and do it like this. Instead of getting my mouse cursor to the exact location of the circle, which does take more effort to do. So E space bar, that's it. That's how I do it. Then space bar to execute, and it got erased. So this window is very good at making surgical picks because it doesn't pick lots of objects. It only picks the contained objects. For example, look at this. All of this window only selects this circle. Okay. Now, the other picking window, which is if I click anywhere, instead of moving to the right, I move to the left. So this is how I do it. I click and I remove my finger off the click. So click and remove your finger. Then move to the left. This is called a crossing window. So this crossing window, what does it select? Everything that it touches. Everything that touches the green area is going to be selected. So here I'm selecting this circle let's say here, two circles and a line. You just need to touch them. So this one it selects more objects. It's better at selecting bulk, okay, and bulk, meaning in bulk quantities. The green one, which is the crossing window, is better. However, the blue the blue picking window is better at making precision picks or surgical picks. Okay, so that's the difference. So the green one, which is you move this way instead of that way, yeah, and you select lots of objects. It's better at selecting lots of objects. So let's say if I want to erase all of these, yeah, then I use the green one. So E space bar, yeah, I may simply make like this, yeah, and then space bar again, and it gets executed. And here I can see that I have selected lots of stuff. Okay, so that's the difference between these two. So here again, I'm zooming and I'm panning. That's it for today's lesson. Today's lesson has no has no exercise. It was just simply to learn how to control our environment in a better way.